Welcome to the Hard-Won Wisdom Podcast with best-selling author Fawn Germer and corporate innovator Michelle Brigman. Come here weekly for career and life-changing conversations with some of today's most influential thought leaders, senior executives, and trailblazers who will share their mentoring wisdom. This podcast is brought to you by the Women's Leadership Network.
Hi, I'm Fawn Germer.
And I'm Michelle Brigman.
And this is the Hard-Won Wisdom Podcast. Today's topic is self-deprecation. All those times that we think it's just so humble if we make fun of ourselves. And sometimes it really is funny, but sometimes it does significant damage. So we figured we'd better have a little bit of a lesson here so you know when and how to make fun of yourself so that you're not destroying your credibility by putting yourself down publicly.
Well, this is going to be good because women especially find they're awful. We do this a lot.
We do it all the time. And, you know, self-deprecation can be really funny. It is the mainstay of many a comedian, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when women do that consistently in an environment where they are being watched more closely and perhaps criticized, and anything that we do to indicate that we lack confidence can be a ding against us for our credibility as leaders. So we have to be really mindful when we're doing it, that we're doing it to the right effect. Correct?
That's so true. So true.
How do you do it?
So I like to use it a lot whenever I'm really trying to connect with my team or build relationships, because there's this perception, and I remember doing it early in my career where I would look at the senior leaders and I think, oh my gosh, they just always seem to have it together. So I think the moment that you can go, let me tell you this ridiculous thing I did, like come out of the bathroom with the toilet paper hanging out or stuck on my shoe, or just owning it is like, it just makes people feel so much more confident and comfortable. And like, oh, I can take a deep breath, and they're human. And that is whenever I find that it absolutely works to my advantage.
Right. And that's true. I didn't know that you came out of the bathroom with toilet paper on your shoes.
Oh, I've done it. You want to hear my best story?
Yeah.
I was working at Dell, and I had a big meeting that day, and I had this cute little pink suit on, and I had, back when we wore pantyhose, I had pantyhose and pumps and this gorgeous this pink suit that I bought, and I had my hairpiece in because it just looked fabulous, and I could get a
hairpiece.
Oh, I had a hairpiece. Like I had my hair all fixed on the top of my head, and it was like
it's because you're from Texas.
No, I had this great hairpiece because remember, before I started working at Dell, I was in the beauty cosmetic industry. So I did fun stuff with my hair. And as I'm getting out of my car that morning to come into the office.
Hang on. If any of you hear slight noises, my dog is having a nightmare while Michelle's telling the story.
Oh, I love it. See,
the story is so horrific. He's having a nightmare.
The dog is having a nightmare. No, so I'm getting out of my car, and I have my left arm full of, I don't know, probably my notebook or whatever. And I'm getting out, and my feet trip, and I fall, like my feet are in the car. My knees hit the pavement. I am scraped up. I've ripped my pantyhose. I'm bleeding. I come limping into the office. My hairpiece is hanging off the side of my head. I've got blood running down my legs, and I am like standing there making a scene, cracking up about what a Fruit Loop and, not coordinated. And it got a lot of mileage for a long time because it was quite the view of me, Miss Altogether, looking like a complete train wreck.
Right. And people love those stories. One time I was walking into the newsroom, and I remember had this cute pink dress on, and I had tucked the back of the dress into the back of my pantyhose. Okay. And I come in, and the clerk goes, "Fawn, pull down your dress." Well, those kinds of stories, they're always good for a laugh. It shows that we are human, right? Yeah. And that we're not full of ourselves. But what if Joe Biden had a piece of toilet paper stuck to his shoe? does that make him seem more human, or does that cause damage? And or on the flip side, Donald Trump, right? I mean, if those guys have toilet paper on their shoes, they're not going to say, I have toilet paper on my shoes, right? Aren't I funny? No, they're going to be screaming at the person who let them go out in public with toilet paper on their shoes.
Their handler's getting fired.
Damn right. So yeah, so I have some notes here. Like self-deprecation, it makes light of a heavy situation, often makes other people laugh. It makes you seem humble, approachable, right? That it can be used to make you agreeable, gain support, and it can preempt potential negative feedback from other people. So all of those are very positive things. And I'm not saying you can't use self-deprecating humor, but I am saying think about how often you're doing it and who you're doing it to and how they're going to perceive it.
Well, and what it is, because I think when you start getting into like body shaming or making fun of like a physical appearance, I don't know in many situations where that ever goes over well.
What do you mean? Give me an example.
Well, like, oh my God, my legs are so fat. Or did you see, like, kind of like you with the, you talk about the clowns, like it could be
my feet.
I don't know that that's ever funny.
Well, it has to be. Okay. And the clems are a great example because I have really big feet, everybody. I mean, my friends call them my clem cadiddle hoppers. Clems,
they have a name. What does that say?
The clems. I have to be able to make that's a great example. Self-deprecation. You have to use that because I'm standing on stage with a very nice outfit, right? I'm a keynote speaker. I'm dressed and the shoes are never going to be right. They're never going to be right because I've got these giant feet with bunions and they are uncomfortable. So the shoes are going to always be a joke. So I have to let them in on the joke. And as soon as I start talking about it, I say, stop looking at my feet. And then that's all they can do is look at my feet. But I have to do it because a lot of times I'm speaking at women's conferences where they've got great shoes. And sorry, you're not going to see heels on the clems. Not going to happen. So the clems are a great example.
It doesn't make people uncomfortable. I don't want to participate in making fun of your clems because I have like my own issues. Like I don't think I'd like
I don't start
join in on that conversation with you.
I'm telling you,
I certainly would never say it about your feet. I would certainly never.
No, but I say it because when I talk about the whole idea that if you keep taking the next step and the next step and the next step, you get where you need to go. And I, as you know, have famously walked many miles to reset. And that one of the biggest lessons is that if I keep taking the next and the next, I'll get there. Well, I've got these big feet and my feet hurt. And at 7 miles, my feet start screaming. And I know that no matter how much pain I'm in, if I just go a little further and a little further, I get there. And as I'm telling that is where I bring that up. I'm just, I feel like I have to say that. Sorry, people, if you don't think I should say it, tell me in the comments or don't. Okay, because they say that in practice, self-deprecation could show up as low self-esteem. Now, I don't have low self-esteem about the clems because they get me where I need to go. I love them. But if you're constantly cutting yourself down, and if every joke is at your own expense, people think, well, what is the matter with her? Why is she doing that?
Right. Or does she know something I don't? That's another thing. I had a coworker, she would always just do this. And it's like, all of a sudden, then I lowered my expectations of this person because I was so accustomed to hearing all of the things they did wrong. And at first I would try to counter it with like, what are you doing? But at some point you start saying that, or you hear it over and over and over, it's going to affect the perception others have of you. And you got to be really careful with it. Because in that case, it wasn't coming from a place of confidence. It was coming from a place of low esteem, and it had a significant ripple effect and would hold her back. It held her back straight up.
Yeah. And I think when women do that in male dominated environments, it can be deadly. Deadly. They are looking for reasons to laugh at you, not with you. Okay. Let me repeat that. If you use self-deprecation in a male dominated environment where they are looking for a reason to laugh at you, not with you, you are committing suicide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And look at just on this whole thing of the physical appearance piece. Think about now how interesting it is. Like, you have this whole trend of men talking about the dad bod. So they're like, they show up with this sort of pride around being unhealthy or being overweight or not taking care of themselves. Like, you think that would work for
a woman?
Women? Like,
yeah, the frumpy middle-aged woman bod. Hey,
yeah,
I'm really rocking that, right? People will not think
saggy boobs, they chop 4 kids later bod.
Right. Okay. That is the perfect thing. I got a pooch after I had a baby. It's like, no, that's not going to work for us. But the dad bod thing does work for guys. Why is that?
Because I think expectations, right, of men are just very different in regards to women have to be perfect at everything. We have to be perfect moms, businesswomen, sisters, daughters, like all the things. And if we're not, then we're less than. For men, they can kind of get away with anything, just don't be weak. If a man is weak, then everything falls apart. And if you ever heard a man say, I'm weak or vulnerable, I mean, that's high risk. And it's funny because you talk about this, again, talking about your feelings and toxic masculinity, you hear all these terms now, but that would be a difficult situation for a man, is to be vulnerable. And
that is very interesting. I think a lot of this is that when we do that, another side of that is how women have such trouble accepting compliments.
Oh, yes.
So, and it's very related. It's not the same thing, but it's that, oh, what a great outfit. Oh, I've had it forever, or got it on sale.
Mm-hmm.
I saw somebody on stage, was at speaking this event a week ago, and she had this beautiful dress on. I mean, it was gorgeous. And I said, I love your dress. She says, oh, I got it online for $70. Now, why would you tell me that instead of saying thanks?
I'm bad at this one. You bringing this up. This is me. I'm like, Brenda and I may go hit the Salvation Army, and I bought like these really cute jackets recently at the Salvation Army. And Wednesdays it's half price, so it's already like I paid $2 for an awesome blazer. And but it's like, oh my God, I paid $2 for this. I got it at the Salvation Army. It's like a sense of pride. Like, I got this big deal.
Okay, that I think shows I like a good bargain. If you find a good one, I should give points for that. But I don't think
I'm not going to brag about. I'm going to feel uncomfortable if I were to say, like I bought some expensive stuff. Like,
no, are you gonna, if you're at a professional event and somebody says, boy, that's a beautiful blazer, are you gonna say, hey, I got it $2 on Wednesday at the Salvation Army, 50%?
Yes, I probably would.
Really?
And then I would go, why do I do that? Because then I would go, like, why did I do that? But I do. That one is probably the one I'm guilty of over anything else.
Now, the woman who told me about the $70 dress, I had her send me the link. I have to tell you, so I could order.
I would have been like, $70 is too expensive for me.
Oh my gosh, it was magnificent. But it's like, we do not claim our successes, whether it's with how we look like that or really with the success of a project. It's like, oh no, it's my team. I have a great team. I'm just so lucky to have the support. Oh, I'm really lucky. I liked that I interviewed the the Prime Minister of Canada, the first woman Prime Minister. And she says that, how people say, oh, you were very lucky to have the career you've had. She says, no, I'm just brilliant. And I think we should be
Oh,
bold
I love it.
like that. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yes, we never say I anything. That's not nice. It's inappropriate. You got to say, oh, we, my team, even though if you're the one that busted your butt on making something happen, that it's difficult because it's frowned upon. I mean,
Yeah,
it's frowned upon.
totally.
Again, women.
Yeah. And then, okay, so the other thing is when you downplay yourself and your achievements, oh, it was nothing, then it was nothing. Now,
Yep.
we don't necessarily have to, thump on our chests like the guys do, but we have to get better at that. Because I'll say it a million times, biggest mistake women make is to expect their hard work to be recognized and rewarded. So you don't want to downplay what you're doing. You want to take the credit, and in a way that you're comfortable, and you have
manage
to get
up.
more comfortable.
Let's use some corporate speak. Call it manage up.
Well, tell me, how do you manage up?
Oh, there's a couple of ways, right? Some ways that you can manage up, depending on the situation, is where you are making sure it is known to your leadership about the good work that's being done. So it can still be very powerful for you to say, I want to share with you what Susie on my team delivered for their business. Like, you can manage up communicating it. You can do it through email. So it's not always a matter of but it's letting them know the wins. And one of the tricks that I use, especially at like performance review time or when I'm talking about someone, because we have such a hard time promoting ourselves, is I will write reviews in third person as if I am writing it for one of my team members, because it gets my head space right, where I can think of 100 things that in that context, I can think of 100 things they did with measurable results, how much their impact was. But if I'm saying it about, I did this, I did that, I will come up with maybe a third of the wins, and that makes me very uncomfortable. So I literally, to this day, will turn in a performance review written in Michelle, did these things. Michelle led, Michelle elevated, Michelle supported her team as they, and I will write a powerful, real review every single time. And that's a way that I have learned to counter my reluctance to, celebrate and shout with a megaphone successes and accomplishments.
Well, I think that's really an effective way of getting that task done, which could be very miserable. But what is it that makes it hard for you to then translate it back into I?
Because I don't know. It feels like that one of pompous and arrogant.
Is it?
Perceived as pompous and arrogant. Like, Michelle, you could have said 4 things. You didn't need to say 7.
Is it? I don't know. I'm processing this with you, because is a guy going to write it in the third person?
Hell no.
Okay. So what makes us think that we're going to sound pompous and arrogant? And I'm asking this. Maybe you do, because.
I think that I discovered this system worked whenever I found out that my boss was never going to write my evaluation. And so I wrote it myself. And then whenever they took it, he just cut and pasted 90% of it into his version.
Oh, that's pretty smart.
So that was what happened multiple times for multiple managers. But no, a man wouldn't think it was arrogant, but it was just, for whatever reason, that's where my belief system has been.
Yeah, and there are things that we say that identify our weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really bad at math. If you say that, that's not a smart thing to say. Now, as somebody who's not great at math, and if somebody's going to give me math, I always use self-deprecation like that. And I just laugh and I say, you know better. than to ever ask a journalist to do math, right? Because it's never going to be right. So you never trust the numbers in the paper. I don't know. Is that bad?
I believe that is a limiting belief. So more than it being a perception that's perceived negatively, I think that affects your self-esteem. So it may show up in a different way. That's where I think the terminology of this isn't my strength, or I'm not good at this yet, or something like that doesn't feel like you're just making a statement as fact that you're no good at something. And this is something that I have to watch with my kids, right? I'll hear when they were younger, particularly, I'm not good at math. And it's like, you absolutely are good at math. Let's do the math. And to the point where they learned that, okay, wait a second, I am pretty good at math. But you had to correct them from saying those things because it ultimately would take a toll on self-esteem.
I don't think it would take a toll on my self-esteem. I'm not great at math, so I have a calculator and I excel at other things. I don't know. Now, if you say, oh, I really screwed that up, I shouldn't even try that. If here's one. If they knew the real me, they wouldn't come around. All of those things are damaging.
Yeah, very, very.
But again, why is it that we love that kind of humor from people on television shows and people standing up in their acts?
I don't know. Because it takes the focus off of us, maybe. Is that why you think?
Maybe because
it takes the focus off of me, or I'm not the only one, or hey, there's somebody else, and it sort of builds my confidence back up, or maybe takes away a little bit of the negativity I was feeding myself.
Yeah, I think the more you do it, though, the more the jokes fall flat. If that's all you've got to offer, you're not offering much. And if you're doing that when you're alone, they say it's a bad sign, but sometimes I make myself laugh when I'm doing it. So I have a good time. I don't think I'm putting myself down. And I don't know with that. I think that, we have to always, I think, counter everything inside of ourselves so that we know that we are not the joke that we may be telling, but we aren't a joke. And more than anything, we have to consider who's hearing it, how they're going to process it. Again, male-dominated environments, not the place for that. Also, very competitive environments. That will not help you. No. I mean, it's just, you look around you in your office, if it's a very competitive situation, how will putting yourself down elevate you? It's not going to make you more beloved. It's going to hurt. So in doing that, just in going forward, take the compliments, go a little lighter on the negativity, make peace with yourself and your big feet and the toilet paper on the bottom of your shoe.
Right.
And at least just think about what you're saying so that you know that you're not damaging your credibility, and instead considering your audience, considering how you're creating your profile, and then move forward so that you project confidence, but also the humble side.
Love it. I love it. And a good thing to do, I'd say, just to build one thing I'd add on that, is this is where things like 360 evaluations or asking others for feedback around perception can help you maybe uncover some blind spots in terms of what's the image you're putting out there, and is it the one you want or not?
Well, good point with that.
Yeah. But only upside, though. Just be kind.
Yeah. Claim your power. All right, ladies, we will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Hard-Won Wisdom Podcast with best-selling author Fawn Germer and corporate innovator Michelle Brigman. Join us weekly for career and life-changing conversations with some of today's most influential thought leaders, senior executives, and trailblazers who will share their mentoring wisdom. This podcast is brought to you by the Women's Leadership Network. Visit hardwonwisdom.com for more on this podcast and for links to Fawn and Michelle's web pages and social media. Also, be sure to rate, subscribe, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining the Hard-Won Wisdom Podcast with best-selling author Fawn Germer and corporate innovator Michelle Brigman. Join us weekly for career and life-changing conversations with some of today's most influential thought leaders, senior executives, and trailblazers who will share their mentoring wisdom. This podcast is brought to you by the Women's Leadership Network. Visit hardwonwisdom.com for more on this podcast and for links to Fawn and Michelle's web pages and social media. Also, be sure to rate, subscribe, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort, and we'll see you next week.